Republican side, we've now got Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul all in. Then today we got Carly Fiorina and Ben Carson. That brings us up to 5. It'll be 6 when Mike Huckabee gets in tomorrow. It'll be 7 with Rick Perry next month. All in all, we are expecting somewhere along the lines of 20 Republican candidates to get in. And that's not counting, crazy protest candidates and stuff. Those are the theoretically at least, the contenders. 20 of them, or maybe even more. On the Democratic side, there are 2. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was first, okay? And then Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, independent from Vermont, jumped in last week. And honestly, nobody is giving Senator Sanders great odds of winning the Democratic nomination. But he is the only declared candidate for that nomination other than Secretary Clinton. And in the first 24 hours after he announced, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders surprised everybody by raising more than $1.5 million in the first 24 hours after he announced. He raised more than $1.5 million from small donors, giving him an average donation of about $40. Bernie Sanders raised more money for his presidential campaign in his first 24 hours than Rand Paul did, or Marco Rubio did, or Ted Cruz did. When he jumped in last week, he told reporters, quote, "Don't underestimate me." We don't. We do not. And nobody should. Joining us now tonight for the interview is Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont. He is a declared candidate for the Democratic nomination for president. Senator Sanders, it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
I have a feeling that things have gone in this past week, in this last few days since you've announced. I have a feeling they have gone better than you expected. Or did you see that it would go this well?
Well, I had the feeling, Rachel, that there was a strong undercurrent of support. And when we announced on Thursday, we sent out an email on our website, berniesanders.com. We got 35,000 responses in terms of contributions, and 100,000 people indicated on the first day alone that they wanted to sign up and work on the campaign. And those numbers have gone up in the last few days. So I feel really good about that.
You have 100,000 people who have pledged to volunteer on the campaign already?
No, actually, we have 175,000.
What's your plan for how to put all those people to work? That sounds like you're going to be the head of a pretty big organization.
That's exactly what we are struggling with right now. But I think the main thing, Rachel, is I think we have a message that is resonating all across this country. And that is the level of income and wealth inequality in this country is grotesque. 99% of all new income goes to the top 1%. The top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. And meanwhile, the middle class of this country continues to disappear. I think people want a candidate who is prepared to take on the billionaire class and say, you know what, this country belongs to all of us and not to a handful of billionaire families.
The debate season is still a ways off. Obviously, whoever's a declared candidate on the Democratic side, especially because it's probably not going to be a gigantic field, is going to be there into the debates, depending on how many they have. You have started the informal debate process by getting in and declaring and putting yourself out there and declaring what it is that you're interested in. Are there specific policies that are under consideration federally right now that you think Secretary Clinton ought to be talking about in order to address those kind of concerns? Are there specific things you'd like her to either commit to or to commit to being against that would make you feel better about her candidacy?
Well, it's not a question of feeling better about her candidacy, but there are huge issues facing this country. We have 6 major Wall Street financial institutions that have assets of some $10 trillion, right? Half the mortgages and 2/3 of the credit cards in this country. In my view, if a bank is too big to fail, it's too big to exist. I am bringing forth legislation actually this week, which would break up these large financial institutions. And that will be a very good thing for our economy. I would appreciate Secretary Clinton's views on that issue. We have on the floor of the Senate, probably later this week, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. I happen to believe and have voted against all of these trade agreements, NAFTA, CAFTA, permanent normal trade relations with China, which have resulted in the loss of millions of good-paying jobs here as corporations have gone to China and other low-wage countries. I'm not quite sure that the American people know what the Secretary's position is on TPP. The USA Patriots Act is coming up for reauthorization. I have voted against it in the past and voted against reauthorization. Obviously, we have to be strong in protecting our people from terrorism, but I don't think we have to undermine the Constitution and deny our people basic constitutional rights. That's an important position. So, you know, in terms of Iraq, I was one of the leaders against going into Iraq. The Secretary supported that war. So I think there are some strong differences of opinion.
Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, declared candidate for the Democratic nomination for president. Senator, it's always great to have you here. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Rachel.
It's interesting. 175,000 people, he says, signed up and said he wanted to work on that campaign. Running a campaign for president is running a very big organization if you're a viable candidate, right? It is itself a test of political talent in a way that I think people don't necessarily get credit for as we're talking about all these people who are outside the political system potentially running this year. I think Bernie Sanders' candidacy is going to be fascinating to watch, potentially logistically, but as well as what it means to have somebody pushing hard from the real left on both sides of this campaign. Stay with us. Lots still to come.